You're likely to see more of President Cyril Ramaphosa with his ANC hat on these days. That's because it's the governing party's elective conference later this year, and Ramaphosa needs all the support he can get to stay on as ANC leader. He heads off to Mpumalanga today to talk with party structures after the province's executive committee was disbanded. The visit comes amid reports of a leaked document apparently showing potentially big changes in the ANC's disciplinary and subcommittee structures that may prove beneficial for Ramaphosa at the national conference. The president's calendar is full, as he's also set to give evidence at the Human Rights Commission's July unrest inquiry soon. Political commentator Dr. Ntsikelelo Breakfast is live on the line now to discuss all of this with us. Dr. Breakfast, thank you so much for your time. I want to start off with those changes in some of the ANC's subcommittees. It's been said, reported, that those changes are to do with capacity, that they need changes in those subcommittees so that the committees are able to function better. Is that a justifiable reason? Do you buy that reason, or is there more to it, given that there's already complaints from people saying that Ramaphosa's allies are trying to take over every sphere of the party?
Well, I think, Tafuma, there is more to it than meets the eye. I get the sense that, by reading between the lines, that the Ramaphosa faction, they have a grand strategy. They want to hold on to power by making Ramaphosa to come back for a second term. But the feeder system to that is a tactical maneuver, which is basically to swell the ranks of the ANC by, appointing their own henchmen. I think in a way that conveys a message to their opponents that they are in charge of the organization, but also that is part of psychological warfare, because I think that strategy is meant to intimidate their opponents. But I think as things stand, in my opinion, it's still early days. It's hard to tell which way the wind is blowing. My view is that the democratic outcomes of the upcoming conference of the ANC can go either way. It's only after the BGMs have been held, all of them, that we can read between the lines in terms of which faction has an upper hand.
Do you read anything into the proposed changes that might bring back the faces of Mbeki-era politicians, people who we would associate with the Mbeki-era, like Vusi Pikoli and Geraldine Fraser-Moleketi? Is there anything that we can read to that, particularly given how Mbeki has sort of risen to prominence in the last year or two in the ANC?
I think there is a strategic alliance between the Ramaphosa faction and some of the people who were aligned to former President Mbeki, including himself, former President Mbeki. We saw him being deployed to Free State. But the challenge is that some of those people, if not all of them, they can be accused of having a history of factionalism. Vusi Pikoli, for instance, I think he was the director of NPA when former President Zuma was charged for corruption, and former President Mbeki was at the helm of power at that time. So some people might cast some aspersions on some of those people.
Are these changes, if they are to be believed, it was a leaked document, are those changes just going to give more ammunition to the opposing factions?
Well, I think the motivation behind taking those people on board is to consolidate the Ramaphosa faction. But I don't think that the forces of RET will accept some of those names.
All right, let's talk about his visit to Mpumalanga, President Ramaphosa's visit to Mpumalanga. Why has this province been such a problem child ever since about 2017? And will his visit bear any fruit?
Well, I think last week he was down here in the Eastern Cape because, first of all, this is the second largest province of the ANC. Mpumalanga is the third largest province of the ANC. So the president has a geo-strategic interest in both provinces because of the numbers that these provinces have. I don't think that he's going to get a lot of numbers in the build-up to the conference in KZN. So I think he cannot afford to lose the support that he needs from these provinces.
There's been lots of talk about unifying the party. And where do you think his biggest battle is going to come from? And is unifying the party just a pipe dream? Is that ever going to be possible?
I think the ANC throughout history has had ups and downs, but the conflicts that have broken out of late have nothing to do with the strategic direction of the party. They have to do with who stands a chance to benefit from material gains. The fights that are playing themselves out have to do with competition over scarce resources, in particular economic resources in terms of tenders. And some people also within the ANC, they don't want to let go of political power because political power makes them to be protected. When you've got political power, you are not prosecuted. Some of the people who are within the ANC, they can turn a blind eye to the things that you are accused of and only focus on other people who might be on the wrong faction. So there are a lot of factors that are at play that makes ANC members to see power as a do-or-die phenomenon.
Dr. Breakfast, before I let you go, the South African Human Rights Commission inquiry into the July unrest, last year's July unrest, is set to hear from the president on the 1st of April. What are the unanswered questions for you? And do you expect to get any answers from the president when he appears?
Well, first of all, I think it's a good move that the president has shown by showing interest to appear on that forum because it's a sign of humility that despite the fact that he's the head of state and head of government, he can subject himself to some of the Chapter 9 institutions. But normally, he doesn't strike me as a person who can advance coherent and cogent arguments. A case in point is, the Zondo Commission. I don't think that he stood out there. In my view, he did not advance a watertight argument when he was asked about the minutes of the deployment committee. But I think the mere fact that he has shown interest, I think, speaks volumes about his humility.
All right. Dr. Breakfast, thank you for your time. We appreciate it. Our resident political commentator, Dr. Ntsikelelo Breakfast.